This is the latest addition to the Triumph family here in India. This is the Speed T4 from Triumph. This is clearly based on the Triumph Speed 400, which we loved and which was a bike of the year last year. This is now the most accessible Triumph that you can buy in India. You can take this home for just 2.17 lakhs. And to make that insane pricing happen, there have been some cost-cutting measures in place to make this more accessible. So let's quickly list them. First and foremost, you don't get upside-down forks, you get conventional telescopic forks. Also, in terms of the tires, you don't get radial tires like on the Speed 400, you get cross-ply tires. And even the rear section is slightly thinner at 140 section compared to the 150 on the Speed 400. Then you also don't get adjustable levers, which the 2025 Speed 400 gets. You also don't get bar-end mirrors, you get conventional mirrors. And then you of course have these different colorways to make it look different from the Speed 400. But the biggest change of course is the engine. Now this is again the same engine which you have seen on the Speed 400, the same liquid-cooled 398cc engine, but it's in a different state of tune. This one only makes 31 horses and 36 Nm of torque. The Speed 400 in comparison makes 40 horsepower. The main focus here is rideability and low end grunt. They tell us in fact that between 3 to 5,000 RPM, this one makes more torque than the Speed 400. You also don't get ride-by-wire, you also don't get traction control to keep the costs in check. So that's the motorcycle for you. An interesting proposition, and we'll only know more once we ride it. So let's go find out. First time on board the Speed T4, and a lot of it feels very familiar. But already from the onset you can feel the difference in the engine. You can feel the heavier flywheel, which has been done on purpose to give this motorcycle, this engine, a much more relaxed feel. It definitely is not as keen to rev as the Speed 400. So yeah, it has the makings of a really good tourer. And also in terms of refinement, man, I mean, yeah, there is a little bit of buzz which creeps in the first, second, third gear around 4,500 RPM. But just like on the Speed 400, after that, in the higher gears, it settles down. In fact, it's really smooth. And also in terms of what they have done with the torque, having shifted it in the lower revs. I'm riding now in the fourth gear, and yeah, there's still enough juice on tap for those quick overtakes. Same for the fifth gear. It allows you to be a lot more lazy. It doesn't demand as many gear shifts. Also love the gearbox is really smooth, the clutch is really light. I was initially a little bit disappointed to see such a big dramatic cut in terms of horsepower. But I see now what they have done, and yeah, for riding every day, if you mainly ride to spend a lot of kilometers on the highway, then this definitely seems like a much easier, simpler bet. So also in terms of tractability, let's see. I'm going as low as 2000 RPM. Yeah, still pulls cleanly. And even in the fifth gear, man, at around 3000 RPM, as I open the gas, the bike is still responsive. This was the part which I was a little bit worried about, mainly because of what they have done in terms of the final drive. The rear sprocket has gone down from 43 on the Speed 400 to 39. So I was not quite sure how that was going to work out, but now the motorcycle is still quite responsive. It's much smoother, it's a lot more refined. Let's try this. 3 to 4,000 RPM. Question we are trying to see here, is it still fun? Yes, it is. Yeah, the engine continues to shine on. But where you will be disappointed a little bit are the brakes, because the overall setup is a lot simpler. You get axial caliper, not a radial caliper like on the Speed 400. You don't get sintered pads, you get organic pads. And finally the tires. These are cross-ply tires. They don't have the same amount of grip. They are not designed for riding very aggressively. So yeah, the brakes was one thing which really impressed me a lot on the Speed 400. On the Speed T4, they are a little bit of a compromise. Also, the same goes for the suspension. They have been set up for a very plush, nice ride quality. The Speed 400 was still a little bit on the sportier side, a nice balance between sporty and comfort. This is more on the side of comfort. So if you try to push now in the corners, it doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence. It moves around quite a bit. And that's okay, because that is not what it was designed for. Also in terms of ergonomics, whatever small change they've done to the seat design, and especially for the pillion, they're going to be more keen to ride with you on the Speed T4 than the Speed 400, because they've added 10 mm of more foam for the pillion, which is going to go a long way in making long rides much more comfortable for the pillion. And another thing which you will really appreciate on the highway is the longer wheelbase on this, because that is only going to aid your stability at higher speeds. So on this, you are easily capable of cruising at 120 kilometers an hour in the 6th gear when the engine is nice and calm and relaxed. The good thing that they have done is, while the wheelbase has increased, they've gone for a more aggressive trail, which has kept alive the agility of the motorcycle. I was a little bit worried that it's not going to be as agile. It's going to require a little more effort when you ride around in the city, but that's not the case. It still is quite intuitive in the way it handles, in the way it turns. Doesn't require a whole lot of effort. I have to admit, I came into this first ride with a lot of skepticism, but after riding the Speed T4, I think I finally see what Triumph have tried to do. And yeah, I mean, this is definitely not a motorcycle for me. I like to go fast, and if that is your intention, then the Speed 400 definitely is the way to go. But if you're a kind of person who is looking for an everyday motorcycle, good, nice, comfortable, easy, relaxed cruiser, then the Speed T4, actually I would recommend even higher than the Speed 400, just because of how the character of the engine has changed with the heavier crank. It just mellowed it down. It's also refined it that much more, and the responsiveness of the motorcycle hasn't really gone down too much. And the fact that you can always ride in a gear or two high also means that you will get better fuel economy. We of course could not test it because this was the first ride, but Triumph is claiming anywhere between 30 kilometers per liter in mixed riding conditions in the city and the highway. So yeah, that extends your range that much more. And the comfort is definitely much better, more so for the pillion with the extra padding that Triumph has added to the rear part of the seat. Yes, you're not going to get the best of componentry in terms of upside down forks, the best brakes. If that is your intention, then go for the Speed 400. But if you're looking for a nice, easy motorcycle to ride every day, which can also double up to be a good tourer, while still looking really nice, which still has the same kind of fit and finish as we have loved on the Speed 400, then the Speed T4 at 2.17 lakhs starts making a whole lot of sense.